he the thing is, he drops that, he flashes back to a gunfight. He drops the rose and leaves it in the rain. That's a clear and evident indication that he was part of a relationship that ended badly and he's given up on. And he's walking away from a past that was riddled with him being, you know, a questionable character that involved him. It basically involved him being wrapped up in a mafia-style intrigue story, which is very evident. That was obviously what they were trying to evoke with the imagery of the church and the Tommy gun-like weapons being used and his creepy smile. That he comes from a background where he was a questionable character who was involved in gunfights and so on. And the rest of it is really just the specifics. But wow, do they drag it out. I mean, yeah, they told us what the story is about. You don't need to know about Julia or Vicious or the Syndicate or any of that crap because it's superficial. It's the details. The core story of the entire series was told to us in the first 2 minutes, and if you had half a brain, you would know what Spike's character's backstory was, and thus what the main story arc of the series was, from watching the first 2 fucking minutes of the show. And the rest of it is just them taking their sweet time telling us every little detail that they care to share with us about how that went down. But we really know all we need to know. He was part of a crime organization. He was in a relationship. It ended badly, and he walked away from it and gave up on himself. Gave up on feeling. Basically, he dropped the rose. Therefore, he gives up on romance. He gives up on feeling anything. That's the story. And I'd be like, you know, normally I'd be like, oh, cool, they summed the entire story up, you know, really quickly for you in the first few minutes, and you know, that they give it to you in a really mysterious way. Well, that'd be nice if there was anything actually more to it than that. Everything else is just the details of how that went down specifically. But there's nothing more to it than that. There is no more story than that. I literally just told you how the entire series plays out. There's nothing interesting about that story because it's really that simple. And Spike's character is exactly the same. He is as simple as he appears. The most depth we're going to get out of him is not even really depth. It's just, it seems deep in the subtle ways they show it to us through his body movements in this one episode. And Spike himself is actually not very complex, even within the context of this one episode. He had a bad romance, and he's just given up on feeling anything since then. And everything else on top of that's just an act. Well, that's clearly never been done before. And if they explored... That technically is 3 dimensions. The fact is, they never exploit the hollow feeling he has inside. The fact that he's given up on life. They just simply let it play out. Because they have this they insist on this weird destiny angle. And so that dimension, that entire dimension is wasted. And so really all we have left is what we see on the surface, and he becomes a very simple character from there on out. And it's impossible for me to like a guy who couldn't care less about his own existence. Because if he doesn't care about himself, and he doesn't care about the crew, and he doesn't care about anything, really, this is where the hardcore Bebop fans would argue, he cares about Julia. No, he doesn't. Here's the thing. Any emotion, any actual emotion, his obsession, the angle of his character about his obsession with finding Julia again, that's that spark of life coming back out of him that he might be able to fulfill his dream of running away with Julia. And that's where his character sort of gets a palpitation, a chance to be resuscitated. And the thing is, though, that's not actually life. That's not actually having life. That's not actually exploring the chance of his character having some real animation to it. What that is that's a way to be even crueler with, and even more pointless with the hollowness inherent in Spike's character. That's him. He knows he doesn't actively seek Julia out. He doesn't spend his time trying to find Julia. It's just that he hears about Julia coming close and his heart skips a beat and he suddenly goes off to find... He suddenly rushes off to find her. But really deep down inside, he knows that he's never going to have that life. That's why because he knows how this is going to play out. He knows how this is going to end. And that sounds like it'll be interesting. I mean, he knows that running away with Julia is just a pipe dream. And that the way it will end is the way it was always meant to end. He and Vicious will kill each other. And that sounds like it might be deep if they explored that. But they don't. They're too busy revealing it slowly to us along with the rest of the details of Spike's previous life, all of which I mentioned before are completely besides the point because there's nothing more to that story than the surface layer information that they spoiled for us in the first 2 minutes. And so here's the reason why I'm angered by all of this. Even though this episode does have a lot going for it, it looks very well done. It has a lot of very professional writing techniques being employed in it, but all of them are for naught. Because Spike's character completely wastes any opportunity to be actually interesting. Instead, he's simply boring in a way that would make him look interesting.